Welcome to the Heart of Bastrop Talk Show. I'm TJ Finn with the Heart of Texas Chamber.
And I'm Connie Schrader, Mayor of the City of Bastrop.
And Mayor Connie, we have a serious topic today. Normally we're bright and cheery, but today we really want our audience to pay attention because what we're about to introduce you to is important.
And everyone has a role to play.
Absolutely.
And we're going to learn about that too.
Absolutely. Let's take a look. So hi, we're here today with Miguel Casas with Sheepdog Initiative. And you have an amazing organization, and I can't wait for you to tell everyone about what Sheepdog Initiative does. So I'm handing it to you. Let's hear it.
Awesome. Okay, cool. Thank you. First of all, I want to say thanks for giving us the opportunity to speak. We don't get much of that now. But plus the topic at hand is probably taboo in most organizations to talk about publicly. But Sheepdog Initiative is a faith-based profit for ministry self-defense training school. And by faith-based, I mean Christian. So we, Sheepdog Initiative is a firearms training company here in Bastrop. And so we teach all kinds of firearms classes.
And we've been out to your place
with
Sari, so we did, and I'll show some of that footage from there. That was amazing.
Oh my gosh, she's so, she received that information so quickly.
She loved it. It was so fun. It was so much fun.
And faith-based and self-defense and firearms are, that's a unique combination of topics, but it's a very vital combination of topics.
It is. So in order for you to understand why, is when I put Sheepdog Initiative together in 2016, I was asking God to not let it be about the instructors, because I've been to different schools and it's always about the instructor and the glory of the instructor, and I want it to be about his glory. So I said, what do you want me to do? And I got an email from another organization called Operation Underground Railroad that talked about the evils of human trafficking. And there were certain statistics that he mentioned that I grew up in the Philippines and I lived in a couple of different countries and I visited quite a few, and I can promise you that the reason why I fell in love with the United States is your worst day here is still the best day anywhere else.
Yeah.
I promise you that.
I don't think a lot of people understand that. We
Absolutely.
have this false sense of reality sometimes that just does not match what's really
you can
out
get
there in the
lulled
world.
into some entitlement that you don't, to your point, don't realize that in another country you'd just be in jail and conversation would be over.
Absolutely.
Or you hope that you're in jail. You may be otherwise taken care of.
Right.
There's so many benefits to being in the United States, and those statistics kind of hurt me, because one of them was that 80% of the multi-billion-dollar industry of human trafficking is actually funded by American men, and that's a statistic in Homeland Security.
Wow.
Right? That's the statistic they put forward. I refuse to allow my life to continue. At least I was hearing from God, like, if you want to help me, right? Not that God needs my help, but if you want to help fight something or help stand for something, this is what I'm calling you to do. And so Sheepdog Initiative is dedicated to fighting and putting an end to human trafficking. And that's the main mission.
I love that. We talked a little bit earlier, and I was, sharing with Miguel that I worked with Ivana Trump back in the 90s. Not to give away my age, I must have been 12. But we worked on a human trafficking project when it really started coming about, that people were understanding what human trafficking was, and the problem just kept getting worse and worse. And so it's, I understand your journey, and it is not an easy feat, right?
No,
very
it's not.
Heartbreaking, and also very dangerous.
Absolutely. So during that time that you're talking about in the 90s, that's what they call the beginning stages of awareness about human trafficking. Human trafficking has been going on for
Forever.
For a long time.
But the actual awareness publicly started happening in the 90s.
Right.
But what hasn't actually come to light is the degree of how much human trafficking actually makes, right? To give you an idea, the human trafficking industry probably made about $250 billion last year.
Well, it's interesting that you're referring to it as an industry, because the sad truth is it's a business.
It's money.
Oh, absolutely.
And I'll explain to you more why here in a second. But to give you an idea, Hollywood only made $200 billion.
Wow.
Okay, so and it was explained to me by a few people I trust south of the border, right? And they're saying that human trafficking has already gone past the gun trade, the illegal firearms trade, right? And it's now at par with drug trafficking.
Wow.
And here's why. You can sell a bag of drugs once,
You can sell it.
you can sell a child 20 times a day.
Wow, how heart-wrenching is that?
And I talked to a federale who told me, just point blank, he goes, it's a math problem. I said, it's a numbers deal. I go, what do you mean? And he said, well, if you sell a child 20 times a day at the going rate of $25, that's $500 a day, $180,000 a year, and $2 million that they make for the cartel every 10 years.
Wow.
So if you think about it, why is it so dangerous? Is if I rescue a child south of the border, I'm taking away $2 million from the cartel. And they're not going to let that go, right? That's just not something that they're going to allow.
Right.
And, well, think about it, $250 billion, and I'm a firearms trading company being used by God in Bastrop.
Right.
So I joined up with To the Least of These.org. And right now, Sheepdog Initiative is doing rescues for women who are being trafficked, women and children that are being trafficked in the United States, starting from Austin all the way down into Brownsville and McAllen, Texas. And we do rescues by counseling. Right? We don't kick down doors. That's not us. We're not the tactical
Right.
team, although people will think that because we're a firearms training.
Right.
We don't do that. We basically counsel them. We provide them funding to relocate and hide them, change their name, that sort of thing, and help them. So we've done rescues within Texas. However, south of the border is a completely different story. I can't go down there, write a Sheepdog Initiative. When I go down there, we follow what God told the disciples, which is, I'm sending you a sheep amongst wolves.
Right.
So most people don't realize it, but when I go down to Mexico, I'm a missionary, I'm unarmed. I don't carry anything.
Right.
And then we walk there's 3,000 people camped out at the Reynosa border right now from 18 different countries. And I mean, we have women from Russia, we have women from China, children from the Philippines that are all trying to get into the United States through a process called parole into asylum. So they don't just get asylum, they have to get parole first. So when we're down there and we're ministering to them, I realized what God was doing. Because I said I need to help them. So we're bringing down food, clothing, tents, right? And more importantly than anything else, we're bringing the word of Christ. Right now in Reynosa, 1,000 people at least have accepted Christ.
That's
Which
amazing.
is the most amazing part, right? That's seeing that happen for me is like, this is what we're talking about.
Well, and for some of them, it's the first time anybody's ever told them they're loved.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
You know,
And we had somebody donated Bibles translated into Haitian because we got a
Wow.
population of Haitians down there that speak Creole. And we have these Bibles, and they come through every time. Like we have organizations that send in ones that's in Portuguese, and so we can communicate with them, right? And so
that's amazing.
in the process of that ministering, we develop relationships with certain families. Well, it started happening after I said, Lord, you asked me to fight human trafficking. What's the effect that we're doing down at the border? And then it started with a family that the father was a Honduran police officer that started an anti-cartel task force.
Oh.
And they killed his whole team.
Wow.
And he
So
escaped.
he's looking for asylum, trying to.
And
get
when
out.
he could prove it, we figured out, okay. And I filmed their testimony. There's a whole bunch more. They were actually caught by the Mexican cartel and they escaped. The story is crazy because the hero of the story is their 7-year-old daughter. But when the documentary, I don't want to spoil it.
So let's talk about the documentary.
Sure.
So you've been down in Mexico,
Yeah.
and you did create this documentary that's going to come
I'm
out.
still in the process of.
You're in the
Yeah.
process.
Oh, there's a
Okay.
bunch of people. It's actually, I think it's going to turn into like a 10-episode miniseries because
Wow.
you can't just put everything in there. I mean, I have one episode that's just on this one guy alone that raises money to go and walk up to the cartel and purchase women for freedom.
Wow.
And he goes unarmed too.
You know, I think that
Crazy.
people need to understand. I mean, we've had a lot. Texas is a big deal with the border crisis, and we're dealing with a lot. And I think it's important for people to understand that these are people. You know, they're not numbers. They're people with real stories and real, you know, and I will tell you, I don't think anybody should do anything illegal. You know, if you're coming over here illegally, you're doing the wrong thing. And it's going to come back to bite you know. But I also think that we have to sometimes think with our heart and realize that these people are real people with real stories, with their children, with their grandmothers, with their, you know, and have some empathy for that and figure out what we haven't been able to do is figure out the problem, right?
Well, thank you for mentioning that. There's a purpose behind the documentary, and it's to present the problem and then provide a viable solution. May I talk about the solution?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Absolutely.
so here's the problem. If the people weren't being given the chance by the current administration to come in legally through the process of parole and asylum, they're going to jump the wall.
Oh, absolutely.
And I'm going to tell you the truth right now. I drove the wall. There is no wall. There is none. You can't keep a cow out of Texas.
No, I have a ranch in
Doesn't
Rock
exist.
Springs.
Okay.
Okay,
So
I have
you
a
know,
ranch in Rock Springs.
Just
People are
right
just
through.
coming in groves through there.
right.
Right.
And I have game camera footage of what actually is going on at night. And
I can give you some of that too.
right, exactly. So that's the problem. They're going to come across.
Oh, absolutely.
You're not going to stop the flood. And while you and I were busy arguing over whether or not that was right, other people came in that didn't share Christian values. They didn't share conservative values. They didn't share good values, right, with
you
us.
got the bad coming in.
And now and the bad guiding them,
Yeah.
right? So now I'm faced with this issue because I'm helping them come across. And by the time they get into the United States, we're like, here you go. And if that person that I brought across, if the only thing they're used to is crime because of hardships in South America or wherever they're from, or prostitution,
That's the world they know.
and I put them in this country and they can't speak English, they don't know any kind of trade, what do you think they're going to do? And what did Sheepdog Initiative just do? I just brought in a prostitute.
Right.
What do we stand against, right? So I started thinking a while back, Lord, how am I supposed, I started asking God, how am I supposed to help them? Like, am I truly helping them by just giving them the freedom of the United States? Yes, I am, probably, because now their lives are in less danger. That's great. But am I making the United States better? Am I making the home that you put in my heart, right, better? And so I've been praying about this one particular thing, and I'm hoping that the funding that we raise will go to this. What if, and I'm spitballing here, what if we had a piece of land that I can bring these people that we're rescuing to, so it doesn't stop at the bridge, doesn't stop at the safe house, right? Because we do have a safe house. We bring them across, we protect them, and we find funding for them to go where they need to go, and maybe funding for legal help, maybe, right? But what if we had a facility where these families that we rescue can go,
And they've got
Where-
asylum.
where they learn English,
Yeah.
right? The father and the mother both learn trades. They learn mom learns how to put up a business, how to do their taxes in the United States, where to go for help, right? And then
Those basic life skills.
right,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
then they're there in this facility that now, okay, well, we have to build an abode for you. Well, teach them carpentry and they can build it. Teach them electric, plumbing. Now they have a trade. Now they have a way to survive, if that's what they want.
You've taught a man to fish.
Right. And
Yeah.
so now he and the word of Christ, right? So now this family is now the family that you want in America.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Right.
Mhm.
And so for me, I'm like, it can't stop at the border.
Right.
It can't.
Right.
There has to be something else that we do. We have to,
Yeah.
right? Otherwise, what's the point?
Well, I think one of the
Absolutely.
key things that you talked about was awareness. We were talking
Yeah.
about in the 90s that there was starting to be an awareness,
Right.
although it's been going on for decades and we all realize that. But even an awareness for our audience that's watching today.
Absolutely.
I know that, as mayor, our police department has taken training. Sometimes situations aren't always what they appear to be.
Absolutely.
And if you have a keen eye, if you're interested in this, if this is pulling on your heart, there's ways to find out and do training about awareness so that someone can let you know that they need help, that
Absolutely.
they want out of a situation.
Absolutely.
Thank
You
you.
know,
Yeah.
here in Bastrop, I mean, we think about this is a problem in the rest of the world. It's not. It's a problem here in
Right here.
Bastrop.
Right.
Because, as a general manager for the Hampton Inn, we, thank you, Jesus, found a human trafficking victim, Bastrop PD. It's a long story. I'm not going to go into all of it, but they rescued her.
Yeah.
And it
It
happens
happens.
everywhere.
So right now, I'm actually helping a woman who's being trafficked here in Bastrop by her own husband.
Yeah.
So trafficking awareness back then, you would never think that that could happen. You'd think, oh, trafficking, prostitution.
Right.
Okay, well, that's not necessarily the case.
No. No.
Right.
And they use them for all sort of things. So drug runners, they force them to run drugs. They force them to do. There's all kind of criminal activity, right? And they're
Labor.
and labor, and sometimes the victim is stuck and would have opportunities to get away, but is too scared,
So
right?
fear, in the experience that I've had and the opportunities to help people that God's put in my path, I've come to find out that fear is a worse prison than metal bars.
Oh, absolutely,
Right?
yeah.
It can render you immobile.
Yes.
And if you don't know anything else,
And that's one of the
It's
things that
control.
we have to provide too, is the counseling services. Because
Very
when
important.
you are completely surrounded by fear for so long, you need a transformation of the mind, like the Bible says. Right?
Absolutely.
And so we need to have people there, specialists who can counsel both adults and children, women from men, to different counseling service. And so all
yeah.
these things, like that's all part of, man, I wish people knew about that, so that I'm sure there are people out there who are willing to help,
Absolutely.
and we could get that together sooner rather than later.
Right.
So
Right, that's a great idea to have, kind of, we talked last episode to Set Apart Farms, and they're kind of doing the same thing where they're putting together a ranch
Yeah.
for healing of these veterans and their families, and this is no different, in the same type of aspect, right?
yeah,
long-term impacts,
long-term
Absolutely.
impact.
hard for other people to understand.
Right.
But the great thing about Sheepdog Initiative is everybody has an opportunity to be a part of it.
Absolutely.
Whether it's financial or
Right.
if it's giving of their time.
Absolutely. So like when I say when, because I know God's gonna do something, and He always does things amazingly. But when it happens, there'll be a way for people to volunteer. Let's say you're a master plumber, and you want to spend some time giving back. We need people to teach these people.
Right.
Give them instruction. You could even find dedicated laborers to work in your company at some point.
Right.
Right. People
I have a
remember you.
sign.
It takes the village and make them a part
Absolutely.
of the village.
Absolutely.
I have a sign in my office that says, "Don't come to me with a problem, come to me with a solution."
That's it.
Right, and I think that's really what you've done here. It's
I
like,
really
yeah.
want to. This is for me. After seeing everything and doing everything that we've been doing, I'm looking at this as the solution.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's what God put in my heart. I thought about it. I prayed about it, and I believe that this is the best solution. I mean, even if we don't do it, that's the reason why I'm just saying it out loud, because nobody's saying it. Nobody's talking
Right.
about what's going on down there. Nobody's talking about a possible solution.
It's so bad, like on the border, having a ranch on Rock Springs. So just the other day, we don't lock our doors because if you do, they'll
Tear it up.
tear your door up trying to get in. They're coming through, the immigrants, they're coming through. They're not tearing up anything. They're just taking clothes and water and food. And if you leave your door open, they'll leave it fine. If you don't, they'll break through the door. Right? And everybody knows that in Rock Springs. Everybody knows that in Uvalde. It just is what it is. And it's not, if it happens, it's going to happen. Right? And so if we don't come up with some solutions, and I get it, the rest of the country doesn't understand. It's kind of like, I don't see it, so I don't think it's an issue. But if you're in Texas, you understand how bad this is. You know,
Anywhere along the border.
absolutely anywhere. Yeah, you're right. Anywhere along the
New
border.
Mexico.
Yeah, you
into-
know, when I was
into
a
Juarez and-
teenager, we went to with Cathedral of the Pines Church in Beaumont. We took a youth trip to Mexico City and did a missionary trip,
Cool.
and it was amazing. I've always been a big fan of Mexico until it's not safe to go anymore. But we went and we stayed in a hotel that was above an orphanage.
Right.
And people were so poor, they would just come give their babies away just because they were on the street. They lived in cardboard boxes. And it was so different
Yeah.
from the United States. And I think that was my first realization that, whoa, this is really not the reality that we live in. And we just have such a false reality. We don't know how good we have it. I mean, people complain, oh, I'm going to move to there and there, but this is the best place in the world.
Well, back to the very beginning of our conversation, you said the worst day here is still better than the best day
anywhere else. I
anywhere
promise you
else.
that. That's the reason why I moved here. Right? I moved here, and some of my roommates, and I moved to California to begin with, but some of my roommates were so they were so amused by me because I looked forward to laundry day. And the reason is you guys get your clothes done and dry in 2 hours. Back home when I was growing up, of course now it's probably different, but back home when I was growing up, if you didn't wash your clothes the day before, you ain't wearing it. They're going to be wet.
Right.
It's not going to happen. Right? You guys
Right.
get your clothes done in 2 hours. And I used to be so excited to go to the laundromat. We didn't even have one at the apartment. I had to go to the laundromat, the coin laundry, put the coins in, watch my clothes dry. And I was just be so happy that I'd come home, come back to the apartment, all my clothes are done.
It's all relative.
It is.
It
It is. And, I do miss home. I grew up on an island, so there's so much about there.
Where are you from?
I'm from the Philippines.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm from the Philippines. And I moved here when I was 27. So I grew up, most of my young life was all in the Philippines. And I can tell you that now, knowing about human trafficking now, and all of a sudden I started having these dreams, these flashbacks, these memories of when I was younger, because to get from my house to my school, we had to leave very early in the morning. In the Philippines, it's different. You're in school from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. because all parents work, right? So we had to leave very early in the morning because I was like an hour and a half away from school. So
Wow.
you're leaving at 5:30. And all of a sudden these memories started flashing back because we had to pass through a small red light district to get to my school. And I saw in my memories, I could see white men holding the hands of little Filipino children, returning them to their handlers at that time of the
Wow.
morning. I didn't put two and two together when I was younger. I didn't understand it. Now I do.
Well, we're glad that you're in Bastrop.
Thank you.
We're blessed to
I'm
have
glad to be
Sheepdog
here.
Initiative,
Thank you.
and we wish you nothing but the very best as you move forward.
Thank you very much, Ms. Mayor. I appreciate that. And I wish you all the best in continuing everything that you're doing. You as well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so
I
much for the
appreciate you
platform.
coming on. Absolutely, I appreciate you coming on, and we want to have you back
Absolutely.
whenever your documentary comes out.
Yes, I will be in touch. I will let you know. And I think I'm going to try to rent one of the theaters here at Lost Pines
Oh
and
wow!
actually have a night where I talk about it, we show it, and then we talk more.
That would be
and
amazing.
Stuff. So yeah,
Great.
that'd be great.
That
Yeah.
would be amazing.
So,
Thank you so much.
thank you very much.
We are searching for guests for Season 5. Do you have an event coming up in Bastrop County? Want to share news or information about your business? We want to know. Visit theheartofbastrop.com or send us an email to theheartofbastrop@gmail.com and be our guest.
Well, TJ, we told everybody it was going to be a serious topic.
Absolutely.
And Miguel Casas, what an angel in our very presence.
He's pretty amazing. I'll tell you what, Sheepdog Initiative, you know, and I wondered, why is it called Sheepdog? Because when you hear Sheepdog Initiative, you don't automatically go to what, human trafficking and
Or
firearms
faith-based,
training and-
self-defense,
Yeah.
firearms. There's a lot going on
But he
there.
actually had an interesting story. So he said, you have to think about it this way. There's three type of people. There's the sheep, the wolf,
and the
and the sheepdog, right? And the sheepdog is the one that protects the sheep, right? When that wolf's in the area, right? And I so now I totally understand it, and it makes sense. And I tell you, we think here in Bastrop that we're well removed from this human trafficking situation, and we're not. Guys, the minute you step out of your house, you're at risk, and sometimes you're at risk in your own home, right? It happens more common than you think it does. You know, so paying attention to your surroundings, being aware of what's going on. And if you talk to somebody that you don't know and they're like, hey, come over here, look, and you get a bad feeling, you need to trust yourself, right?
Absolutely. And we know that we have so many young people that are not paying attention to their surroundings and have their nose in their phone. And as a
Right.
parent, you don't know exactly who's talking to them.
Right.
And there's ways to lure them out, separate them from their families. So if you see somebody that's always sitting by themselves, never really makes eye contact with you, aren't we glad Miguel told us you can actually do some training with him so that you know what to
Absolutely, yeah.
do if you see that situation.
Yeah,
and
he
what was
does-
the number one thing he told us? See something,
Say something.
say something.
Absolutely. And you know, you know, these young people, that internet, while can be a wonderful thing, it's a dangerous thing. And a lot of kids are lured away from their homes over the internet. They may thinking they're talking to another 16-year-old. It's actually a 40-year-old man. I mean, there's so many ways. These human traffickers, they run ads for employment and to get you to contact them. They find out, you know, modeling ads. There's a lot of things. These people are good at what they do. Like Miguel said, it's a big business.
Well, and it's the old adage, if it seems too good to be true, it's
It
too
is.
good to be true.
Yeah.
But to your point, it is a huge business. What did he tell us? It makes more
250
money than
Did you say more money than Hollywood?
more money than Hollywood.
That's a scary. I think it said 250 billion a year.
That is a motivator, and that's also why it's going to take each and every one of us to play our part.
Absolutely. So we're glad that you guys joined us today. If you want to know more, what is it, sheepdoginitiative.com?
Yes.
That you take a look at the website. And of course, you don't want to miss an episode of the Heart of Bastrop talk show. So go to theheartofbastrop.com and you can join our newsletter, find out information about future and past shows. You can watch shows all the way back to season 1.